What's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Happy Thanksgiving. The 3-9 Patriots, they have the 5-7 Colts on Sunday. The only teams Indy has beaten since September are the Dolphins, the Titans, and the Jets. Colts are 1-4 in their last 5. But before we get into this game, the news of the week and so much more, there was a roster move that the Patriots made on Tuesday. They released guard Michael Jordan. Now, just to revisit who Michael Jordan is, he played 684 snaps this season for the Patriots, but here's how he came to the Patriots. He was a fourth-round pick in 2019 by the Bengals. Okay? Bengals waived him. He went to Carolina at the end of camp in 2022. In 2023, the Packers signed him. He never played a bit for them. He was on their practice squad the entire season. He was released. The Patriots signed him in January. Released him at the end of camp, then they re-signed him to their practice squad, elevated him to the regular roster, and he played 11 games for them. Now, he was pretty bad in those 11 games. He had moments, but generally pretty bad. And as we discussed earlier this week, he had a snap against Miami that was beyond imagining. He looked like a stuntman diving out a window, and he completely fanned on the individual across from him. So why was he here? The simple reason is the Patriots, since 2019, have built the worst offensive line in the National Football League by far. They are far and away the worst by all metrics. 32nd in run blocking, 32nd in pass blocking. We'll throw this up on the screen if we could here. Look at this. They're all by their lonesome over there in that grid. Bottom left axis. They can't run block. They can't pass block. These are the guys they've drafted since 2019, including this year. Layden Robinson, Caden Wallace, Jake Andrews, Sidney So, Antonio Mafi, Cole Strange, Chasen Hines, Andrew Stuber, William Sherman, Michael Onwenu, Justin Herron, and Dustin Woodard. Oh, throw in Yodny Kajust and Yalta Froholt, too. And these are the players who've actually taken the offensive line snaps for the Patriots this year. Zachary Thomas has taken 10% of the snaps. Chukes Okorafor took 1.54% of the snaps. He took 12. He was a plum free agent signing. Tackle DeMontre Jacobs. These are tackles. DeMontre Jacobs has taken 569 snaps. That's 73% of the snaps. Caden Wallace has just taken 70 snaps. It's 9%. Vidarian Lowe has taken 68.46 of the snaps, 534. He's not really that good. Meanwhile, at guard, you have Lecitus Smith. He has taken 3 snaps. Nick Leverett took 117. It's 15%. Sidney So, he's taken only 151, drafted last year. Patriots were counting on him. Nope, just 20% of the snaps. Layden Robinson, he's taken 290 snaps. That's 38%. Mike Onwenu, 780 snaps. It's 100%. God bless him. Mike Jordan, we talked about him. And Ben Brown has taken 471 of the snaps. That's 60%. So the lion's share of the guys taking the offensive line snaps in front of Drake Maye are guys like Michael Jordan, castoffs. Which brings me all the way back around to what personnel man Eliot Wolf said in April. And this is brought to you by Shaw's, perfecting the art of fresh.
I read a lot of that storyline. I'm not really sure what that means. We have a solid offensive line. We re-signed Mike Onwenu. We have David Andrews coming back. We have 3 rookies that we drafted last year that are developing. We signed Okorafor from the Steelers. Hunter Henry, a good running game, a solid foundation, and a solid system in place with Coach Van Pelt on the offense. So I definitely feel like we can support.
Turned out they couldn't support it, okay? They were not good enough on the offensive line. They are not a good offense, and the offensive line is holding them hostage. They've had to make do with other teams' scraps. And the Patriots are so bone-jarringly bad that you have to ask at this point if the personnel people know what they're looking at. Or do they know any better than the people on their couches or the draft experts? Because this isn't a snapshot of ineptitude. This is a feature film. And I bring this up because we are pummeling the coaches on a regular basis. But Mayo just took over that part. Same with DeMarcus Covington and Alex Van Pelt. Wolf and Groh, they've been at it for years. And I think, as I get ready to bring in Phil Perry, they need to be on notice more than anyone in this offseason. They're going to have a top 5 pick. They're going to have an unbelievable amount of cap space. They are going to have the opportunity to rebuild this team just as they did this past offseason and failed to do it. Again, Do they deserve another shot? Here's Eliot Wolf.
Do you feel people are underestimating your wide receiver room and or what you have at the tackle position?
I do, yes. Yep. I mean, we have NFL receivers, we have NFL tight ends, we have NFL running backs, we have NFL offensive linemen. We feel good about where we are, and we feel through free agency on the offensive side in particular that we've been able to supplement our roster properly so we're not having to draft for need as much offensively.
All right, sorry for the holiday riff, and here is Phil Perry, the senator, joins me now. You heard me babble. We're focused on the offensive line, but the wide receiver situation also bears mention, as does the absence of edge ability for the Patriots. If you're the Crafts, are you scrutinizing exactly what they've done here in this year, or are you saying, oh, no, give them another year, because another bad year can result in a lost decade?
It could, but I think they're doing both. You're scrutinizing this year, and you're combining it with whatever performance they're able to give you this coming offseason, because it is such a critical offseason and because you can't whiff in the way that they've whiffed at multiple positions. Yet I know it's great for them that they found a quarterback. Most important piece on the roster, no doubt. And Tom, I think just by finding the quarterback, they probably have bought themselves at least one more year, if not more, because that's generally speaking kind of how it works. You get the quarterback, you're given ample time to surround that guy with whatever he needs for your organization to be successful. You also have to give them one more year, Tom, because you are admitting to the world what a clown show you are if you part with them after one season. You are. You become the Jets, you become the Raiders, you become one of these laughingstock types of franchises because you made a decision that you weren't committed to. You failed so badly with such a critical decision less than 12 months ago that you now have to circle back and change things up.
You could also, though, if you wanted to, and I don't think that they will, but if they wanted to, they could say, look, we elevated Eliot Wolf from a position he was already in. He's already part of what we had built and what is failing terribly right now. He was part of that. We elevated him. We gave him a title. We had a couple of interviews. Did they even have interviews now that I think about it? Okay, they didn't have any interviews. So they say, okay, we took a run at it, but Eliot was part of what was going on here prior. There was a collaboration. It was much celebrated in 2021 by the Patriots. The Bills finally being collaborative. So you can't pretend that they had nothing to do with it. You can't have it both ways. It was all Bill, but there was a collaboration. So these guys were involved. So this 1 year to me is not just 1 year.
It's not to you. Is it to them? Because I feel like the argument for elevating Eliot Wolf and keeping Matt Groh was this really wasn't their operation. We want to give these guys, we want to assess these guys and see what they can do when it's truly their decisions to be made. I felt like that's what we were told at the time that it became clear that these guys were going to be running the front office. So again, you could make the change and you can feel the way you feel, and the Crafts can feel that way too. But it's a complete 180 from what they told us not that long ago.
They had all this scouting information, though. It's not like they came in clean and it was a totally different regime that they were using the draft information on. They had Layden Robinson and Caden Wallace and the array of other players, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. They had all this research and scouting that they had done, and they chose these players. And the only one who's really contributed is Jalen Polk with 12 catches. 12 catches is the second lowest among all first wide receivers taken in the first and second round. You could say Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson took a run at being relevant. It hasn't worked. So
I'm asking you how you think the Crafts feel.
Good. Okay. I think the Crafts are slow to react. I think the Crafts currently, post-Bill, have already made a situation where they thought that they could be in limbo, in purgatory, and levitate above it all and then reevaluate. They didn't appreciate, perhaps, just how bad it will look in the 1 year of doing it. And you can't get pantsed the way the Patriots are getting pantsed in front of the National Football League and not see exactly what's going on and saying, okay, now that we're in it, now that we're watching it, we have to be a little bit more urgent. We have to be a little bit less concerned about feelings and what the neighbors think. As I said earlier this week, they've kind of had their heads in the sand. You have to be proactive. You're going to lose a decade.
Listen, nobody's preached urgency when it comes to building the roster and changing the trajectory of the franchise more than me. I look at their hiring of Eliot Wolf last year, though, and I say they had to have seen something, and they have to, in my opinion, give this group a little bit more than just one offseason. It might only be two, Tom, but it is such a critical offseason that if you don't at least see some progress, I don't know if anybody's calling for them to make the postseason next year, but if you don't at least see some progress, then maybe you are forced to move on. But I think a decision like that one, you do have to let it breathe to a degree, as bad as it looks right now. They did draft the quarterback, and I'm sitting next to somebody right now who didn't want them to draft the quarterback.
Which is fine.
That was not a guaranteed, have to do it no matter what, no questions asked decision at the time.
And to amplify that, this is why, in part, I wanted them to go in a different direction. Because you can draft the quarterback, but if you are by far the worst team in the NFL in terms of pass protection, in terms of running the ball, and you have absolutely no retainable except for your one guard players on your offensive line, you need to build around them, or you are a laughingstock team with one of the worst, by metrics, offensive lines perhaps in the history of the sport.
But did they make the wrong decision? You wouldn't say they made the wrong decision, would you?
No.
Okay.
They're
so if you're giving them that, if you're giving them credit for that decision, if you're ownership, don't you have to give them the ability to have one more offseason to build around it?
Yeah, you could say that, but I could, again, I'm defending my contention that, hey, trade down, make your team better because you're a trash
completely logical. And there were other people aside from you who were making that same argument at the time. What I'm saying is, do you give Eliot Wolf credit for bucking against that idea and taking the quarterback no matter what because you believe in him?
Revisit that second quote from him again, and this is why I would hesitate. Getting back to the support part, this is again from April. Do you feel people are underestimating your wide receiver room or what you have at the tackle position? Eliot Wolf says, I do. I think people are underestimating it. We have NFL wide receivers. We have NFL tight ends. We have NFL running backs. We have NFL offensive linemen. We feel good about where we are, and we feel through free agency on the offensive side in particular. On the offensive side in particular, through free agency, where you added Chuks Okorafor and you added KJ Osborne, and I really don't know who else through free agency I can name. Jacoby Brissett, okay?
Austin Hooper.
Joey
Sly.
He's a kicking guy. That we've been able to supplement our roster properly so we're not having to draft for need as much offensively. That leads me to believe that they're not understanding what they're looking at, not relative to you and me, but relative to the rest of the league. And I think that has existed for years, whether it's Tyquan Thornton or Cole Strange. The rest of the league looks at players the Patriots select and say, I wouldn't want that guy on my team. And the Patriots like, oh, you dummies. We'll take one of those and a Nikhil. And how about a Dalton Keene and a Devin Asiasi while I'm at it? It's just, it's laughably bad.
It is a bad indication of how they're evaluating when you hear comments like that from Eliot Wolf. There's no question about it. I also, though, as we talk about this and we talk through it and we work it out, how likely do you feel Robert Kraft will be when it comes to moving on from people who are under contract for significant salaries?
Well, here's the thing, and I am in a very, very, very tiny minority in the region. I don't think the Crafts are necessarily cheap. They were paying Bill Belichick $25.
I didn't say that.
No. But I'm saying I don't think he should hesitate. He was paying Bill Belichick $25 million a year to coach his football team, or whatever it was. But it was certainly well north of $20 million. So you're not paying Gerard that. I don't know how much you're on the hook to Bill for, but it'll end at the end of this year. So if there's a budget for your coaching and personnel people, did Eliot Wolf get a new contract? My God, I hope it's not a long one.
He did get a new title. He had to have gotten a new contract.
Yeah, so
he had to have gotten a raise. I look at things like offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach, de facto general manager. These guys are all getting real money, and for more than just 1 year. And you can say all you want that you want to blow everything up, and I know we're just talking about the front office right now, but that's real money going out, and it's real money coming in when you hire whoever you hire to replace that person.
How long do you want your football team to hoover the money from you? Because right now, you're going to, in a couple of years, have to spend $60.5 million on your quarterback. So you have it now. You better get good by the time he's making $65 million. Because right now the team is you're going to be at the stadium, I'll be in the studio, and you're going to see that crowd on Sunday, which will probably be intimate relative to what we're accustomed to. You'll see the parking lots, you'll see the traffic. It's not going to be as bad. And it's only going to get less bad because the team is going to get that much worse as they play a tougher stretch of games down the road here.
And the weather's going to suck.
Weather's not going to be great. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in a minute to talk about the Indianapolis Colts and the Patriots matchup. Is this a good one for them, or is it a landmine? All right, Phil, we'll bring you back in here. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way.
Happy Thanksgiving, too.
Yeah, you're a cornucopia of good friendship for me. You're a horn of plenty.
Wow.
Of good football takes.
That's the first time I've ever been described in that fashion. But I feel the same way about you.
Well, that's nice.
Yep. You are a Thanksgiving plate with all the fixins when it comes to friendship.
Hey, what's your favorite side? Okay, never mind. The Colts are a below-average football team. Are you confident, Phil, that the Miami game was an aberration? And if so, why so?
No, I'm not. And I think that's where you have to be concerned if you're a Patriots fan.
But they played 4 good games, the Patriots
played
did.
4 competitive games, and then they went to Miami, and they shot themselves in the foot, both from a mental standpoint with pre-snap penalties and I think a game planning standpoint. And they continue to not just be untalented, but hurt themselves at times when they can't hurt themselves. And I'm not confident that won't happen again in Indianapolis, Tom, especially because some of the mistakes that we see are because of a lack of talent. Mm-hmm. When you're jumping off sides, when you're false starting, it's because you're trying to get an extra beat on the guy who's coming across from you and trying to sack your quarterback. You know you're not as fast as him. You know you can't get to your spot as quickly as he might be able to, so you jump early. When you're holding, why are you holding? It's because you probably can't block the guy that's in front of you. And so I'm not confident that those things are suddenly going to go away in a week's time.
I wonder, too, we probably should have scrutinized the officials because every officiating crew does have its own personality. And sometimes your reputation precedes you as the officials get ready for the next game and they pay attention. Something Bill Belichick always talked about, know who the officials are, know what they like to call. So if they watch the Patriots, when the Patriots are a bad team or any team's a bad team, they're always suspect. You know that little feeling you get after a pass is thrown incomplete? And you wait for that 1.5 second heartbeat as to whether or not there's a flag. With the Patriots, I would say there's probably a 82% chance at some points that on a contested throw you're going to hit, what's the flag? There it is. Do you get that feeling?
Or how about on an explosive gain, like, you know, the short little pass from Andre Stevenson goes for a nice gain down the left sideline. You're looking around for the flag. Oh, yep, there it is.
There it is.
Yep,
there it is.
Inevitably.
It had to be something. There's a smoking gun behind that success. All right, the Colts lost to Detroit last week, 24-6. They had 11 first downs in the game. They went 3 for 12 on third down. Anthony Richardson back for his second start after he was benched for a while for being wildly inaccurate. He ran 10 times for 61 yards. He was 11 for 28. 11 for 28 completing passes in the National Football League. 172 yards. The week before against the Jets, old Anthony was 20 for 30 for 272, by far his best and most accurate game in his return. But he's only completed more than half his passes twice in the 8 games he's played. You take out that Jets game, he's 31 for 94 in the other 3 games that he's played. So it's going to be a big day for DeMarcus Covington to bounce back against a scattershot quarterback who does have some mobility. You cannot allow Anthony Richardson to look capable.
You can't, and I wonder how they plan to do that. My guess is they're going to do this thing that they always do against mobile quarterbacks and try to keep him in the pocket and crush rush and make sure that he's hemmed in behind center there, because if you can make him a quarterback, if you can make him play the position the way it's drawn up in the playbook, you might be able to have some success there. My question is, can you play the zone style of defense that you might want to play against a mobile quarterback like this so you can have eyes in the backfield and still be on your assignments? That was such a problem for them in Miami, Tom. The communication pre and post snap. Man-to-man should be relatively simple. Yep. I got that guy. I'm going to stick with him. Zone might require you to do a little bit more of this, a little bit more talking. And when that has been the case, it feels like this year, especially as we've gone on over time here, these last 2 weeks against these West Coast offenses in LA and in Miami, the communication part of it has been a real struggle. And so you have to somehow balance that. Can you play the zone and communicate the way you want to limit this mobile quarterback with the massive arm?
And just for a refresher, the reason you would want to play zone against a guy like Anthony Richardson is he has run 10 times in each of the last 2 games. So if you're playing zone, you can keep the quarterback in front of you. You're sinking to a spot. You're keeping eyes on the quarterback in the backfield. And you're also paying attention to the receivers as somebody says, coming, pick it up, whatever. If you're playing man, you're going to turn your back and stick with your man. That gives Anthony Richardson more opportunity to run. Now, you're probably saying, well, hell, Caleb Williams, you sacked him 9 times, just do the same thing. The difference is Caleb Williams was a reluctant runner at that juncture and kind of still is. He would rather stay in the pocket, determinedly staying in the pocket. So you can't really rush Anthony Richardson. So Phil's point about a mush rush, just kind of keep him in the pocket with Anthony Richardson, makes sense because if you do afford him creases, he's going to crease you. So they almost have to play zone and communicate better. What do you expect the climate on this Thanksgiving 2 days after Black Friday to be? Not weather-wise, but the natives might be restless, Phil.
Oh, no question, especially if you see some of the same mistakes that you saw. And if the Colts have anywhere near the level of offensive success that the Dolphins did, when even though Anthony Richardson is an incredibly physically gifted individual, he's a talented player, he doesn't have the talent on that offense that the Dolphins did or that the Rams did 2 weeks ago. And so if you see some of the same sort of stuff this week, people will be restless. They'll be restless early. This thing that we never would have thought we would see on any sort of a consistent basis for such a long time here, which is the Patriots getting booed as they go into the locker room, that's become relatively a regular occurrence. And so I could see the same thing happening again if the Colts have any level of success the first 2 quarters.
I'm telling you. Last question. Maybe leave this on a semi-optimistic note here. We've seen this movie before where we all pin the needle, especially after the Jacksonville game. Oh, they suck. They'll never win again. They're 0-16. They might never. We go, sky is falling, and we ignore what had happened previously. And then when they respond by saying, we got to get our S together and do so, we're like, wow, where'd that come from? Could we be tiptoeing toward that same thing again?
I think it's possible because I think the Colts have the ability to make you look better than the Dolphins and the Rams did. But the roster is still the roster, Tom. You make a great point about the offensive line and cutting Michael Jordan, who started 11 games for you at left guard. And now you're going to have somebody else in there. And the whole team, organizationally, you just shrug your shoulders at that kind of move because, well, what's the diff? Like, they still are who they are. They're not going to get much better. What they need to be is competent. This is a word that you have leaned on over the last several weeks, I know. They haven't oozed it. And so cut down on the penalties. Have a sound game plan. If you need to make an adjustment, don't wait until halftime to make that adjustment because teams we've seen have the ability to put up 21, 24 points on you in the span of 15 minutes. So those are the types of things I think we should be looking for moving forward. Are they still playing hard? That's important. How are the coaches coaching? What kind of operation are you running? How cleanly is that operation? Those are all the things that matter most to me.
All right. They need to be clean. And cleanliness is next to godliness, and thank God we have you out there on this Thanksgiving weekend, watching our program, enjoying our podcast. For myself, Phil Perry, John Henry, Adam Jay-Z, everybody who's involved in putting this out, thank you for the work that you do. Take care.